MMA Roadshow, episode number 117. My name is John Morgan. Cold coffee? Well, he's not with me. I'm in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Texas boy up in Oklahoma this week for UFC Fight Night 112, Chiesa versus Lee. That's right, it is the highly anticipated fight between Michael Chiesa and Kevin Lee, which I was already pumped about, to be honest with you. I've been looking forward to this one since the day they announced it, and then they had their little blow up at the kickoff press conference. I think that just got everybody a little bit more excited about it. So I love this fight, and I'm here for UFC Fight Night 112. It is. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit tired. I'm a little bit tired, man. It's we just finished that whirlwind tour. Hopefully you were following along for all the coverage from Stockholm, Rio de Janeiro, Auckland, and then Singapore. It was a crazy 4-week stretch for the UFC and for MMA Junkie and for the MMA Roadshow. And hopefully you caught a little bit of all of it. But man, it wore me out. I'm not going to lie. I didn't even realize, honestly, that this fight was happening this week. I mean, I knew it was coming up, but my brain was so set on that 4-week stretch that I hadn't really given much thought at all to kind of what came after that or when it came after. I thought we had a week break in between, and that's not the case. We came straight here. So what ended up being 4 fights on 4 continents in 4 weeks ended up being 5 fights on 5 continents in 5 weeks. So, man, it has been a taxing stretch, and certainly not complaining. Got the best job on the face of the earth. No question about that. Super fortunate to do what I do, but it just wears you down. And I tell you honestly, what it really did for me more than anything was gave me a new appreciation for fighters that spend time away from their family. Obviously we do so many fighter interviews and you hear so many things that when somebody says, I spent 6 or 8 weeks away from home, and I don't know why in my head I was just like, yeah, it happens. We all travel. I mean, we do things for a living, but man, really spending 4 straight weeks on the road, and I did get 2 little quick excursions at home, but basically for, 10 to 12 hours each, 2 times along the way. So basically was gone for a month straight, and is, I'm sure everybody here knows, I have a son at home and, of course, a wife as well, but especially that kid, man. It's no offense to the wife, but anybody that's a parent, I know you know exactly what I'm saying. That connection to that kid is just something special, and to be away from home that long was tough, man. It really was, and I got emotional a couple times along the way. Really got super lucky because I made it home on the tail end of Father's Day, and my kid and wife had put together a little gift for me that I tweeted out with some messages and stuff, and it was just awesome. So, and I'm not gonna lie, instantly I started crying like a baby, man. I was whining like a baby, man. It just got me so emotional. So, yeah, man, not to complain about my own situation, but what it did was really give me, a more sincere appreciation for what these fighters do when they spend time away from their loved ones, the wives and especially their kids. It's not easy, man. So, when you hear somebody say that, hey, I approached it even with Andre Arlovsky in Singapore. He said, I just didn't go out to Jackson's because, I wanted to be close to my kid. And his kid actually said he turned 5 in August, so right around the same age as mine. I totally get it. So, yeah, next time you hear somebody say that, man, don't let it just brush over you. Think about the sacrifices these people are making. Not only are they sacrificing what they do in the gym every day and sacrificing with their diet and all those things to make weight, but, in some situations, just spending time away from the people they care about, man, it's not an easy thing. So, anyway, I am happy to be back in the United States. As great as the travel was, to only have to jump on a plane for about 2 hours to make it out here, it sure was nice. And that's really kind of why I ended up out here, to be honest with you. Of course, this is a dual event week, and I guess you could call it a 3-event week if you want, since technically Bellator has 2 different names for their show: Bellator 180 for the prelims and Bellator NYC for the main card. And basically, when it came down to it, first of all, it was just shorter flight. Matt Erickson is up there for us. Mike Bond is up there for us. Mike lives in Toronto. Matt Erickson lives just outside of the Chicago area. So it was just a shorter flight for them. So I had some people asking, how are you guys going to decide who goes where? That's basically what it boiled down to. It was shorter for them to get there and easier for them to get there, and it was shorter for me to get here. So I'm not bitter about it. The bigger show, I think I'm going to be some of the only media out here. That's for sure. And I'm actually here by myself. Cold Coffee stayed home this week. Just with 2 events in the same week. The company asked us if we could trim down one person on travel and asked me if I could do this alone. I said, yeah, I'll do it alone. So If you're placing bets on Sunday night, you will not see my blue shirt cage side. I will actually be in the back in the press room. Maybe I can sneak out for the main event, depending on what's going on. But I'll actually be in the back doing camera work and getting all the post-fight scrums and all that stuff filmed and uploaded and all that. So that's why I ended up out here in Oklahoma. I love the main event here. I'm not going to lie. I probably love the main event here more than any fight, any one particular fight that's on the Bellator cards. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think I'm more excited about that main event than any other fight that's happening the whole weekend. But, I mean, the freak show aspect of Chael and Vanderlei, that would have been fun to be there. Fedor Emelianenko, seeing Fedor Emelianenko fight, always a treat. I think he might be in for a tough night against Matt Mitrione. Douglas Lima, Lorenz Larkin, that's a pretty sick fight. Whew, that's a good one too, man. That might rank up there. That might rank up there with Chiesa and Lee in terms of excitement. Chandler, of course, is a beast against Brent Primus. The debut of Aaron Pico. Pretty stoked about that as well. Man, I still got to go with Chiesa and Lee as the one fight I'm most excited about. But yeah, I would have been more than happy to be out there in New York covering that card. But some of our other crew is handling it, so I will be taking care of things in Oklahoma. Real quick, since we didn't get to do an and a half, and we will be bringing back and a half this week, I promise you. Because you know what? I'm doing it by myself, and I got a decent flight time, and nobody can stop me. That month-long journey and some of the added work we had to do, we just didn't have time, man. We were running and gunning, but I want to get back to that, man. I love talking about fights, and man, I know it wasn't that long ago since we had the fights in Singapore, but if in this sport, man, a couple of days seems like a month, man. It was 5 days ago, and it seems like forever ago. So I did want to talk briefly about it real quick. First of all, the main event, Holly Holm picking up the win over Bethe Correia. Oh my God, that was a spectacular finish. I was getting worried. I was afraid that fight was going all 5 rounds, and it wasn't turning out to be terribly entertaining. I love the fact that in the post-fight press conference, if you didn't see it afterwards, Holly Holm said, "No, that was my game plan. We knew we might get booed. We knew that we had to be careful with what we were doing, and we knew we might get booed. And you know what? That's okay with us." So I thought that was cool to stick to the game plan. And then how about Mark Goddard playing such a key role in that fight after we had just talked to him last week? And again, we'll be rolling out videos of that conversation as well. But hopefully you caught it on the road show last week. For him to play such a big role in the fight. And, man, that poor Bethe Correia already been posterized once by Ronda Rousey. And, man, I love the fact that she got in there and was saying, "Let's do this, let's go." But then to be knocked out cold right afterwards, man, that's going to be on highlight reels for a long time. So I feel bad for Bethe Correia. But I'm happy for Holly Holm. You could tell I thought she was so open and honest when we talked to her before the fight, but the self-doubt kind of creeps in a little bit, and you start questioning yourself a little bit. So good for her to kind of get back in the win column, and certainly not an unexpected result, but a hell of a way to do it. Marcin Tybura downing Andrei Arlovski, heartbreaking for me. Man, just Andrei Arlovski is a class act and a legend of the sport, a longtime superstar, and seeing him lose in a fight that, after he battled through the first round and came back in the second, I thought, okay, tide's turning here. Tide's turning. Maybe my upset pick is looking good. But then just, couldn't. I don't know if he didn't have the energy left in the third round. I mean, both guys looked pretty fatigued, obviously, but just wasn't able to stop the takedown, and that sealed the result for Tybura. Yeah, tough for Andrei Arlovski. I don't know where he goes from here. I'm really interested to see what comes next, man. I mean, might have been the last of Andrei Arlovski we ever see, and just kind of unceremoniously be ushered out afterwards, man. It's tough to see. Colby Covington did pick up a big win over Dong Young Kim, and then of course got everybody booing afterwards, creating a stir online. He's been happy to talk about the embarrassment tour. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I like Colby Covington. I know some people hate him, and I think what most people hate is not necessarily just the cockiness. I mean, I think probably that doesn't do him any favors with some people, but I think more than anything it's just the fact that he has such a wrestling based game. I mean, he's still learning the striking game, he's still evolving, And I think he's still trying to become a more complete fighter. But at the end of the day, his game is based on wrestling, and I think that just bugs a lot of people. And I totally get it, and I understand. I mean, I like a good game of rock'em sock'em robots as much as anybody. I like to see people go out there and throw down. But there's something that Colby does that it's just incredible to me, the way he gets out of horrible positions. I mean, he'll get taken down and hit an instant sweep, hit an instant reversal. He'll drag people down on top of him basically, and still end up slipping around to their back. I mean, his positional awareness to me is pretty spectacular. And I know that's a micro portion of the game, and if we watched a full fight card of fights, and at the end of the day we just finished the event, and we're talking about positional awareness throughout the night, we're probably not going to be real satisfied. But Colby's damn good at it, so very impressed with him, man. I think he's got some big fights on the horizon, and I love the fact that he's got that swagger, man. And I know it pisses people off, but I'm a fan. Meanwhile, Rafael dos Anjos picked up the win over Tarek Safadine. Convincing win, no question about it to me. I had it 30-27. I know there was 129-28 on there. I had it 30-27. Is it weird to say, though, that I'm still not completely sold on RDA at 170 pounds? I mean, I'm convinced it's the right place for him. He still had to cut a little bit of weight, but not like he normally does, and it was, much more healthy for him, and that's incredibly important these days. I mean, that's over anything, man. We don't want people risking their lives with this weight cutting process, but I get scared. When the higher up the ranks he goes, the bigger guys he faces, and he says it. He's like, listen, I've fought guys with long reaches before. I fought some people at lightweight that are now competing at welterweight. So it's not like it's a completely foreign concept to me, and I think he's right, but still, it just seems outsized that division. So we'll see. I mean, hell, every time Robert Whittaker fights, I keep saying I think he's outsized for the middleweight division, and look where he's at right now, and look what he continues to accomplish. So certainly doesn't preclude you from being successful, but I do worry a little bit along the way. John Tuck picked up the win over Takanori Gomi. We were talking beforehand, like, oh gosh, Cold Coffee totally forgot Gomi was even on the card, and it's that's a legend right there. It's tough to see him go out in 72 seconds like that. Walt Harris to pick up the big win as well. Looked impressive. Begged for the bonus. Didn't get it. I was cheering for him. He was giving MMA Junkie some love all week long. He said this is his go-to spot for news. So I was certainly hoping for him to get that 50 G's. Bruce Leroy looked fantastic, man. He looked phenomenal in a fun fight with Rolando D. That was a great fight as well. If you didn't watch the prelims for whatever reason, and I totally understand if you didn't, I get it. It was early in the morning, and you looked at the card, and you thought, who do I care about on this card? If you didn't watch the prelims, do yourself a favor. Go watch the prelims. The main card, had some key results, but the prelims were just super entertaining. So if for some reason you missed them, go back and watch them. Oka Sasaki picked up the submission win over Justin Scoggins. Of course, we spoke to Scoggins in Singapore. He was fired up, and he was fighting well, man. He was really fighting well, but then just made a mistake, gave up the fight. A lot of people are questioning his fight IQ. It's been interesting to see his reaction online since the fight. He's totally accepting as to what happened, just saying, I'm going to get better from here, man. The kid's got a great attitude, even in defeat. He's had a great attitude. Wish him nothing but the best. But a big win for Oka Sasaki. Knew that was going to be a fun fight. Sasaki's, may never be a champion, but gosh, man, he's capable of doing some interesting things in there. Our Chinese buddy Li Jingling picked up the win over Frank Camacho. Very tough Frank Camacho. Very how good did he look coming in on short notice in the opening round, and then just gassed. And Li Jingling, the Leech, survived some of the early trouble and came back and battled back for the decision win. Man, I love watching that kid fight. He's got it, man. He doesn't speak English very much, but he's got personality for days. He's got that X factor, even if it just happens to be in Chinese. So I'm really anxious to see what the UFC does with him. You got that September card in Japan. Of course, it would make sense to fight on that. But the rumors keep swirling that November there's going to be one more Asia show, and China is a possibility. It's not done. It's not locked in, but it sounds like a very, very real possibility. And you got to wonder if, the UFC would just go ahead and sit on Lee until then. He definitely wants to fight on that card as well. 5 months away, but maybe we're sitting out a little bit. And I doubt he'd be a headliner, but maybe a co-headline of a fight night in China, the first one in your home country. I think he might be willing to sit on the sidelines a little bit to do that. Russell Doan, the big TKO, Kwan Ho Kwok, fantastic knockout there. Russell was so emotional afterwards. That was fantastic. Naoki Inoue looked fun. That was a great fight there as well. And Lucy Pudilova and Ji-Yeon Kim, what a fun fight they had to start tonight. I'm telling you, if you missed the prelims, go back and watch them. Super entertaining. You can skip the main card. You probably already saw the highlight reel finish in the main event. You can skip the rest of the main card. It'll save you some time. Those prelims were rocking. So thus completed the 4-week international swing. Made it out to Oklahoma this week. I made it home, like I said, just on the tail end of Father's Day. Had a little bit of a delay that made me nervous. Man, we were flying back from we went from Singapore to Hong Kong to LAX. And once we landed in LAX, we sat on the runway for like an hour, and they were just waiting for a gate. We were a little bit delayed leaving Hong Kong, and so therefore when we got there to LAX, they didn't have a gate for our plane. And we sat there for an hour on the runway just waiting for our plane. And man, it was Father's Day, and I'd been gone for 4 weeks, and really just wanted to get home and see my kid, and didn't think we were going to be able to make it, to be honest with you. So I ended up making the connecting flight by about 6 or 7 minutes before they closed the door. I mean, you have to go through customs. You got to go through security again. You got to do all that. I made it by about 6 or 7 minutes. And I feel bad because normally Cold Coffee, I'm right there with him, man. I stay with him every step of the way. He's got one extra step to do because he carries so much equipment that he has to check a bag. And I never check bags. I just carry on. So I have to say, I did leave Cold Coffee behind. I did give him some advice. I helped him out. I told him to call the helpline, and because there wasn't a later flight home to Vegas that night on American Airlines, but they booked him on another flight on United. So he ended up making it home. It was probably about another 2 hours later or whatever. But he doesn't have a kid to go home to, right? Like he's got a girl to go home to, and he's got a dog to go home to. But I had a kid to go home to, and it was Father's Day, so I'm hoping I didn't do the wrong thing there. I felt guilty leaving him behind. He didn't give me any grief over it. I think he understood, but normally that's your traveling buddy, man. You wanna stay right with them and make sure that your companion gets to where you're going and all that. And I basically just ditched him. So I'm not gonna lie, I felt kind of bad about it, but hopefully everybody's understanding of me. That doesn't make me the a-hole. I did spend a couple days at home. Not going to lie, disconnected for a little bit, man. Got offline for a couple days. It was great. So if you hit me up on social media at MMA Junkie John, I might not have gotten you back. I was trying to spend a little time with the wife and kid, and certainly got to do that. Certainly had some fun with them for a couple days. And it was right back on the road to Oklahoma City for this card, Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Lee. And that's the fight that's getting all the attention, and rightfully so. But there's some other good fights on here. It's flying under the radar. Bellator getting all the love this week, and rightfully so for them as well. You know what? I'm kind of, in a selfish way, kind of glad that I'm not there cage side, because we're going to find a place to watch this on TV. It's Saturday night. That will be the day of weigh-ins here in Oklahoma City, but there's no ceremonial weigh-ins this time around. There's only an official weigh-in ceremony. So Saturday night, I'll have the evening off. I'll probably end up doing some work just to help the rest of the team out, but I'm going to be able to watch the fights on TV, and with more Ronaldo on board, with Goldie on board, I'm kind of anxious to just soak it in as a consumer. So as much as I love being cage side and just feeling the energy, and man, Madison Square Garden, I don't know if they'll have the same kind of crowd the UFC did, but man, I loved it last time, man. The energy of that arena is everything that people say it is, man. That was a mega card, of course, but the press conferences and stuff like that, it was a fun environment. So hopefully, Bellator will get a similar type reaction from the crowd. But so as much as I love being there, I'm kind of anxious to kind of just sit down and soak it all in as a consumer and see what the product looks like. So yeah, I'm anxious. So we'll get to do that on Saturday night, and then Sunday night I'll be rolling solo out here in Oklahoma City. So listen, had some fun conversations. I think honestly let's do this. The first place we'll start is the first interview I was scheduled for, and that was Michael Chiesa. The man has been fun to follow his career. He met him when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, when he had the unfortunate passing of his father. The UFC was kind enough to allow him to do a couple of interviews. I believe it was me and Kevin Iole were the two people who got to talk to him. Because normally, once you're in a tough house, you don't get to talk. And they said, no, this is kind of a special situation. Let's let him kind of share his story as far as what's going on. Let's be honest, it probably helped him promote the show a little bit, but still something like that for the guy to be able to kind of discuss it and talk about it. I think it was good. So, instantly, how do you not connect to a guy when you're meeting him under those circumstances, whatever? And just watching his career grow has been phenomenal. When he got hurt, I'm not gonna lie, I hear back injury and I start thinking, uh-oh. You worry a little bit, right? Because, man, and MMA especially, the back, man, how does that affect every positional move that you make? And so I was a little concerned, but, it sounds like he went about it the right way and is healed up now. Is 100% ready to go and is ready to make a splash. First fight in 14 months, and he is ready to make an impact. So let's hear from Michael Chiesa. Well, Mike, let's talk about it, man. It's been 14 months since you've had a fight week. What's the feeling like finally kind of being back in there?
Dude, it feels good, man. This whole process has been great. It's been so long, but in the same sense, it feels like I never left, So it just feels good to be back here, doing the photo shoots and the media and the post, even signing the posters. I love it, So it just feels good to be back.
No one likes signing the posters.
I was enjoying it. It's like a fight week little ritual, you know what I mean? Like, Sam's taking a picture, me signing the pictures, and fuck off. but yeah, man, I'm loving it. It just feels so good to be back.
What was the process like to get back here? Because I don't know kind of necessarily all that you went through. But when I heard back injury, I thought, oh gosh, man, that's never a good thing.
There was a few options. I had the option to have 2 different back procedures. I saw a few different specialists, and I spoke to a lot of athletes, a lot of fighters, and specifically one of my teammates, Will Nolan. He had a injury in his neck, and they trimmed out some of his disc and one of the procedures they wanted to do for me for my back, and he was just like, dude, don't do it. You know what I mean? And I heard from a lot of guys that just say they wish if there's one thing they could change, it would have been to not get surgery. And that's all coming from athletes. I didn't really hear any positive feedback from anybody that was a non-athlete. Unless someone was a non-athlete, I never got positive feedback. So that's why it took me so long to get back. I just opted to I need 6 months rest. So I from the time I got hurt in June, I didn't step back on the mats and train until like November. And it was trying, man. It was tough. There was a lot of times where I was thinking like, am I going to have to get this surgery? Am I never going to be the same fighter again? There's a lot of things going through my head. Definitely a dark period for me, but dude, it all worked out perfect. Everything worked out just perfect, man. I'm healthier than I've ever been, and not only is my back good, but just I've been in this sport for just over 9 years now. I've never had a layoff. I've never had to take time off for an injury. I've never had to take time off for anything in general. And just being able to come back, like my body's just refreshed. I feel like it's just like it's like I'm catching second wind, and I'm 9 years into the sport at 29 years old. So I'm in a really good place right now.
That's awesome. So coming back from something like that, I guess there's not really warm-up fights in your division. It's not like you can pick an easy opponent, but when they come to you with this name and a guy that's on a little bit of roll, got a little respect going, was there any party that was like, hold on, man, I need to make sure that I'm feeling okay first?
No, dude, I was ready to jump back right into the deep end. They had me in line to fight Khabib at 209 if Tony Ferguson didn't come to terms with his contract. You know what I mean? That's how confident I was in how my body feels and how confident I am in where I'm at right now, Like I said, man, after the 6 months I had to take off and all the trying times, once I got back on the mats and I got the training and I got my weight down, I was like, dude, I feel really good. I want to fight now. I was ready to fight a long time ago. It's just been a pain in the ass to get a fight. I was trying to get Eddie and all these other guys, and now here I am, and Kevin's a tough guy, and and especially when he beat Trinaldo. Once he beat Trinaldo, I was like, this is perfect, common opponent. He's in the rankings. Let's do this. That was the main thing. Is I had some other fight offers that were offered to me, but they were all guys unranked, and I don't want this is a deep division. I don't want to. If I'm going to lay it on the line, I want to fight a guy that's in the rankings. You know what I mean? So it's I got what I want. Now we got the number 11 ranked Kevin Lee on deck to fight me on Sunday night. It's perfect.
Everybody's talked about the press conference, but before that, before the added emotion or whatever got into it, it sounds like you do have a little bit of respect for him. You think the guy brings something to the table.
I still got respect for him. I respect him as an athlete. He's a tough kid. We've been in the training room together a few times. I've never had a bad interaction with him up until the press conference. Contrary to all these interviews and all the shit the kid's saying, I was just on the elevator with him earlier. We were talking. You know what I mean? I'm not. It's just funny to me. It's all funny, but nothing bad to say about him. He's just a kid.
Do you have any regrets for the way you handled yourself that day?
No, none at all. You know what I mean? I was raised a certain way. My dad was very protective of my mom, and that's just what I was raised around. And that was just one momentary lapse of character for me. It's just kind of instinctive. It would never happen again. He could say it right to my face right now, and I wouldn't even care. Like, he thinks that, I know what's coming at Wayne's. I know what's coming at Fight Night, and he thinks he's got some mental edge on me. I think that he's very, very, very sadly mistaken.
I guess it wasn't the worst thing that ever happened, though, right? Because this is a fight that I think everybody hardcore fans were like, had it circled on their calendar, couldn't wait for the fight. But maybe that was like something that the casual fan needed to tune in and be like, oh, they hate each other too. Right?
It's true, man. It's the nature of the beast now. There is a, I tell people sometimes it was not manufactured. That was genuine, dude. You think that I could really get myself to act like that? I can't act like that. I'm not an actor. I'm a fighter. You know what I mean? That was a genuine reaction from me back in Dallas. That's not going to happen again. But, there is a certain level of entertainment value to this sport. You know what I mean? That if we were all just boring fighters, nobody would pay attention. If Conor McGregor didn't talk the way he does, nobody would care. You know what I mean? Some people, that's what gets people to tune in outside of the hardcore fans. That's what's going to get the casual fan watching, is when they see drama and the things that kind of swirl around that. So, the fight's hyped, and I think a lot of people are going to tune in. I'm excited.
Are you thinking about the stakes of this fight? Because, it's a big fight in the division, there's no doubt, but it's kind of a weird time, too. We've never had a situation where a champion is off chasing a boxing match, you know what I mean? So it's kind of weird to think about how rankings fit and where everybody sits. So are you thinking at all about where this puts you, where this leaves you, what this does for you, or is this more just about getting back in there and getting back to action?
It's both. I'm excited to get back to action. That's what's most important. I'm excited to get back in there, get a win, keep the win streak going. But with Conor off chasing the boxing match, and now that it's happened, it's a real thing. Now it's like the division's almost like a clean slate, and it almost is like the rankings matter again. If for the first time in a long time at lightweight, the rankings are finally gonna mean something again. Whereas in the past, they've just been thrown to the wayside. So, there is a lot on the line in this fight, especially for me. I'm number 6 right now. A win's gonna get me where I said I wanted to be at the end of 2015. 2016, I said I wanted to be in the top 5. I'm a little bit late, but that's okay. So that's what I like about this. It's like a refresher. You know what I mean? And you got Tony Ferguson on deck. I see he's training. I think he's getting ready to fight somebody. Could it be the winner of this fight? Could be. Could it be Barboza? Maybe. Khabib? Not sure. But something's going to happen, and I think that soon enough we're going to find out. I think the most important thing for me right now is to get that win and get myself in the top 5 so I can solidify myself as one of those guys that is deserving of a title shot. I think the UFC, they want to get me there. You know what I mean? When they had me on deck to fight Khabib, when they had me lined up for the Ferguson fight, I think that they want me to get there, but they can't just push me there. I need to win fights. So this is not only is it important for me to come back and win, but I need to win this fight and get in the top 5.
So it's a kind of exciting time for you. Like, it sounds like you kind of like the idea that maybe money fights aren't what anybody needs to be talking about.
Yeah, it's the thing for me is I don't care about the money. I'm the hillbilly from the railroad tracks. Where the fuck, cool. The money's whatever. I have a dream, dude. I've dreamed about this one thing since I was 13 years old, and that's becoming a world champion. I'm getting this close. all the money and all the stuff. That'll just come with it. I'm not motivated by that. I'm just motivated by one thing, John. I'm motivated by one day waking up in my hotel room, opening my eyes, and seeing a world title sitting on the end table. I just want to know what it's like to be the best in the world for one day. I want to know what it's like for that 24-hour period where I am the man, where I am the best fighter in the world, where I'm the best at something just for a day. Because when that day ends, everyone's going to talk about who's going to beat me and who's next, whatever. But I want to know what that day is like when I wake up in my hotel room as a world champion with a 12-pound gold UFC title sitting in my room. That's what I'm chasing. I don't care about the money fights. I care about fulfilling the dream.
That's awesome stuff. Well, how do you get this thing done on Sunday night to take the next step towards that?
I'm just gonna do what I do. Nothing's gonna change for me. I definitely got some new wrinkles in my game. 14 months off, I spent 8 of it evolving. I spent 6 months rehabbing my body, fixing myself. I spent the other 8. I've been to Chicago. I've been to Detroit. I've trained in a lot of different places. My game is rounding off really well, and I got a lot of great things I'm excited to show on Sunday night. And I'm gonna get the job done, just doing what I do, man, making it an ugly fight.
Welcome back to the NBA Roadshow. That was Michael Chiesa. Should say, right before we started recording, he was going off on a little tirade about, yes, I do have an old truck, but I also have a really nice house and a 6-acre compound. The guy's got a pretty sweet little pad that he's built for himself out there in the Pacific Northwest, and I think he's made a training place there, like a gym essentially in there, and he's remodeled everything, gutted himself. He's sitting on some land up there. Just like you'd expect Michael Chiesa to do. So it was kind of funny, he says he doesn't have any animosity towards Kevin Lee, and I don't think he does. I think everybody involved realizes, hey, you got to sell the fight, right? And I think he was pissed that day. I think he really was pissed off that day, even though Kevin, I don't really think meant to insult his mom. I don't think it was meant to be a mama joke. But I do believe Chiesa, everything he says when he talks about where his head's at. But it was kind of funny, just as we were talking for a few minutes before we sat down, he was going off on a little tirade about, so what if I got an old truck? I got a really nice house. So certainly he's at least listening to the words of Kevin Lee, that's for sure. So speaking of listening to words, if you're listening to these words and you like them, do me a favor, go to iTunes, jump in there, rate us, review us, subscribe to us, do all that good stuff. I love reading the feedback on there, and leave us a little note. I'll be sure to read it on here. I'll take it to heart, and if you got something that you think we can do better, let me know. And if you got something that you love to hear more of, let me know. And if you just think we're doing a good job, tell me that too, man. It means the world to me. So. All right, well, listen, after we spoke with Mike Chiesa, it is sitting down on Thursday night like we always do. But with this being a Sunday fight, the week's just kind of getting started here. So we kind of sat down and did some interviews. And when I say we, I guess that's just because I'm used to somebody being with me. I sat down and did some interviews. It's just me here by myself, doing the best I could to be interviewer and cameraman and editor and all that other stuff behind the scenes. But I also had a chance to speak to Kevin Lee. Kevin is in good spirits as well. He recognizes how big of a fight this is, and certainly wanted to get his take on everything as well. He has become quite the personality as well. I mean, you think about, the last fight out down in Brazil where he flips off the crowd, which I'm not going to lie, I thought was awesome. Might not have been the best thing for his own personal safety, but I thought it was great. Certainly it gave us a GIF to post out there on social media, and it gets people talking, man. It gets people talking, and that press conference stuff. It's hard when you have those big situations like that summer kickoff, because of course John Jones and Daniel Cormier, they had the heat, right? I mean, and they had serious heat, man. Those guys want to swing on each other every time they see each other. So of course they got the heat, and of course you had Nunes and Shevchenko. They've had a kind of a growing little rivalry as well, and they were, yapping at each other a little bit, right? I mean, they're going back and forth, and then you got the kid. It is, at the time, I was like, come on, man, this is just too much. But it did help. It did help bring awareness to this fight. So it's that double-edged sword, man. It's a necessary evil in the sport, and sometimes it looks a little bit too much. And I don't think it was staged. I don't think it was fake. Knowing these two guys, I don't believe that was the case. Hell, they were answering my question. I know I didn't certainly set anything up with them. So, yeah, I don't know. If on the day I was a little like, oh man, is everybody gonna try to be Conor McGregor now? And it's just more apparent when you've got 10 different fights on stage and all 10 people are mortal enemies. But hearing what Chiesa had to say about how he explained it is very true. I mean, his father was protective of his mother, and Mike's the man of the family now. So kind of understand the way he reacted, and I am anxious to see. It's weird that since we don't have ceremonial weigh-ins in Oklahoma, they will be brought together for face-offs, but it'll only be in front of a handful of fans. I mean, whoever decides to show up. And I guess the fact that it's on a Saturday morning is good because more people can make it out than probably a Friday morning. But I mean, who comes to 2-hour-long weigh-ins? Not many people. I mean, you got to be the hardest of hardcore, right? And the most I've ever seen is maybe 200 people, if that. I mean, that might be an overestimation. So, there's not going to be a huge crowd, but there will be cameras. There will be cameras, including our camera. So, will they try to put on a little show in their face-off? We'll see. All right, well, listen, also had a chance to sit down and talk to Kevin Lee, the Motown phenom who makes his residence in Las Vegas now. So, we cross paths with him fairly frequently and had a chance to hear what he had to say. So, listen to the man, Kevin Lee.
Kev, it's been fun to watch you develop, man. I feel like you lately become the enemy, man. The last couple fights, you've been the bad guy.
Sure.
What's that been like for you, man? Have you kind of embraced that role of maybe people just aren't gonna like me?
Yeah, no, I'm the bad guy because I'm fighting, because I'm down in Brazil fighting, and I'm over in Ireland fighting, and then here I think he was born here or something like that. So, of course I'm gonna be the bad guy. And if you go to Detroit, my opponent definitely gonna be the bad guy. So, I embrace it. I mean, it's people gonna love you, people gonna hate you. You might get a little more hate when but that's eventually they'll all respect me. So that's all I'm looking forward to.
Everybody talks about the press conference. Before any of that happened, when the matchup was announced.
Yeah.
What'd you think about the fight itself?
It's a great fight. Right when they approached me with it, I thought, hey, we taking it right away. I didn't even have to. I think I was down in Miami at the time when they did, so I was like, oh yeah, I'm shooting right back to Vegas. Let's get started. Like, I thought it was, it's a great matchup. One of the best in the top 10 for me. He's somebody that I can really showcase my skills against, especially to get ready for these 5 rounds fights, because I think he's going to stay in there for the long run. So, it's going to be even more experience for me in the long run.
So I heard you say, you think you're just a little bit better at him than everything. But at the same time, you do have respect for him, and it's not like a walkover opponent.
Yeah, it's not like fighting ain't 2 + 2 = 4. You know what I mean? Like it's an art. Even though you stack up all our skills, you put us side by side, and I outshine him in every area. He still has a way of he been winning these fights. He ain't supposed to be winning these fights. Somehow the man still do it. He able to put it together. He able to go out there and get it done. And I think now I'm just ready to kick down the door and tell him, hey man, the jig is up. There's some better looking guys that can be in that top 10. There's a little more less mullet that in that top 10 that need to be there. So he's tough. He gonna be in there. I respect his skills. I respect the way he can put it together. But once it's all said and done, the man got to get it.
What was the inspiration for the look at the press conference, by the way?
No, it was definitely Westbrook. We here in OKC. I'm gonna show my man some love. He actually showed me some love on Instagram afterwards. I think he's over like in Paris or something like right now. I asked him, was he gonna be here for the fight, and he said he wasn't gonna make it. If he was, it was gonna be like real late. But anyway, we'll hang out after the fight. That's the only thing I care about anyway. I just want a picture, and we go to the club or something. It's hang out with the stars. That's it.
That's funny. Talk about this moment, because you're a guy that's had hype around you, and you had this setback. Do you feel like this is the moment, like the breakout moment, where people can't deny you're the real deal?
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, I really don't care, because people are going to say what they're going to say either way, I've already taken a lot of tough fights against very high level people. Just because you haven't heard the name don't mean they ain't high level. You ask anybody in this division, Magomed Mustafa is one of the toughest guys, Francisco Trinaldo, Jake Matthews, even James Mutasri, when I fought him, people don't realize he was an Olympic alternative for the Taekwondo team, one of the best kickers in the sport. Just because he went down after the fight, his confidence shrunk. But going into that fight, he was tough. All these fights, they've all been tough just because people haven't heard of him. For me, every fight is like a championship level fighter, and I'm a championship level fighter with or without that belt. The belt really don't mean that much to me. You see you see fans in the crowd, they got two three gold belts already. It's just a hunk of metal. To me, I'm a champion with or without it. I'm going to it with the mindset of being a champion. I'm gonna fight like a champion, and afterwards, I'm still gonna be a champion.
So what are the stakes here for you? Because it's kind of a weird time in your division, right? I mean, you got champion out doing other things. So
I said, this fight is bigger than people realize. It's I think they're gonna open up that 165 division, especially after July 29th. I think that's the right time to do it, and they might stake a title there. They got to make a vacant title 2018. So you looking at, they got to make 2 number 1 contender fights for that. So I think from this fight, I can go into a number 1 contender fight, and not only that, it kind of showcase. I think this fight, the winner of this fight, is gonna kind of take it to the next level in the sport, because you got this McGregor Mayweather going on. After that fight, I think the sport's gonna go into a new genre, and they need somebody to fill them shoes. I don't think McGregor's gonna come back for a minute anyway. So they're gonna be looking for somebody new too.
$100 million to earn you some time off on it.
Yeah. Look, and I ain't gonna hate the man shine. I don't hate a man hustle. I've said it from the beginning. I got respect for him. I got respect for the way he does it. I got respect for the way he approaches the game and the promotional side of it. He's one of the very few that really get it and understand it. He's kind of earned that right, so I got to give it to him. He's out there. He's gonna make some money. He's gonna do his thing. He should sit back, enjoy himself. But when he get back, I've been here this whole time. I'm still studying this game. I study everybody, even fighters I'm never gonna fight. I still study them just to see what they doing and see how how they can be broken down and what mental part of the game are they missing. So when he gets back, he definitely gonna have some trouble. But in the meantime, we'll have to fill some shoes some way.
Nice. Well, could be a number 1 contender type fight for 165. Who knows? A lot of different things could happen here. How do you see this thing going down? Because I think a lot of people, certainly the press conference got people excited, but even before that, I think people, especially fight fans, saw this and were like, oh, that's one on the calendar I want to see. So how do you see this one going down?
Hardcore fans have already been looking at this fight. It's a big fight. I won 9 out of my last 10 or however many. He's won like his 9 of his last 10. So even when you just take away everything else, if you don't believe the audio, just watch the visual. Take away all the rest. You look at our records, you look at the numbers, you compare them against each other, and with 2 top guys in this division. And I don't think there's not many guys, just because those numbers next to when you actually look at the fights, and you look at the experience, and you look at the skill level, it's one of the top fights in the division for sure, and one of the top fights in the sport. So I think hardcore fans already know that, and now we just got some casual fans that are kind of interested in it because of all the extra shit. But I think hardcore fans are already looking at it and already looking at this as being the future of that division.
How do you get it done?
Oh, 1 minute into the fight, you're going to realize it's a different world. It's a new generation. It's the 90s baby era now, baby. We taking over. So 1 minute into it, he'll realize, he's in there with a better fighter. He'll go into a defensive shell. He's going to try his damnedest. If I leave my neck out, if I make a mistake, he gonna jump on me. I'm very well aware of that. I'm a very smart fighter when I get in there. So I'm going to pick him apart. I stick to the game plan, and I'm going to get it done.
So Kevin Lee embracing the heel, to borrow a term, professional wrestling, embracing the role of being the villain, of being the heel. I think the kid just gets it, man. If it's gonna anger some people along the way, then so be it, man. If it gets people to want to tune into the fights, that's what matters. All right, so listen. Once the interviews got done today, I took the red eye in. Oh man, thank God. Got here to the host hotel. It's the Renaissance Waterford here in Oklahoma City, and thank God when I got here. At 8:30 in the morning, they didn't have a room, but I went to check in because I took the red eye through Dallas, and probably should have slept before I left, but I didn't. I only got like an hour and a half of sleep at home. I was going to go to bed early and then just spend time with the family, and maybe had a few frosty beverages while watching TV. It had been a while since I had watched American TV, man. So I wanted to get caught up. I had to, there was a new edition of Real Sports I wanted to watch. Last week tonight, I had to catch up on some of that, some Vice News. These are kind of things that I watch when I'm not watching MMA, and I may have been guilty of watching a little too much. I'd planned on sleeping a little bit, but it's just been a while since I'd watched American TV, and I have all the streaming services, but I just feel like Fight Week, there's never any time to sit back and kind of just watch TV or whatever. So, yeah, I watched a little bit of TV, and next thing you know, I only had like 90 minutes to sleep. And then I had a few cocktails on the plane because I was sitting in first class. Again, I probably should have been sleeping, but the Woodford and ginger ales were going down nice. They were going down nice. Next thing you knew, we were landing in Dallas, and then I did sleep all the way from Dallas to Oklahoma City. But I mean, we're talking about that's got to be like a 35-minute flight. So I got here to the host hotel. I was a little bit tired. They didn't have a room ready for me at 8:30 in the morning, but when I got here, but fortunately they had one at 9:30, and laid down and took a couple hours nap. And got caught up on some sleep, and then it was time to do the afternoon interview. So did the afternoon interviews. Also spoke with Felice Herrig and Justine Kish. Those are going to be on YouTube or already there already. So if you want to check those out, had a couple conversations with that featured female bout there. And then, of course, the main eventers that you already heard. And then one more that we'll have in just a little bit. But after all that was done, I saw my man Robert Follis, and it's funny because here's a guy that's just down the street from us in Las Vegas, and I haven't really, just don't take the time to get out enough, man. It's funny. We fly all around the world, and I just need to do a better job of getting into the gyms in Las Vegas. So it seems like we're home so rarely anyway, and then when we are, I just end up spending time at home. But man, I need to go spend some more time at Xtreme Couture. Need to go spend some more time at Syndicate. Need to spend some more time at some of the other gyms that are out there in Las Vegas, and bring you guys some content from there. But we're gonna try to do better at that. In fact, Robert has actually talked to us about maybe doing some video content and that sort of thing. So we're kicking around some ideas of things we might want to see. But in the meantime, I thought, you know what, I gotta sit down with this guy. We wanted to do it in New Zealand. Schedule just got a little bit crazy, but with this being a perfect weekend, a time he's coaching a guy in the main event. He's a former coach of Chael Sonnen, who's headlining Bellator. So I mean, the guy's fingerprints are all over this weekend's MMA action. So I figured, what better time than now to bring Robert Follis on the MMA Road Show for the first time. And here's the conversation we had. All right, well, this is kind of fun. It's kind of ridiculous because we both live in Las Vegas. I live about 10 minutes from the gym where this gentleman works at Xtreme Couture, and yet we're waiting till we're in Oklahoma to get together and do this for the first time. But Robert Follis from Xtreme Couture is joining me. And, brother, let me just say thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, glad to be here.
We were going to do it in New Zealand. Schedule got a little bit tight over there, but we got to hang out a little bit on the way and have some conversation. And didn't get to talk there, but I'm glad we're getting to do it now. Talk to me about Auckland real quick. I mean, it was a great place, but the result didn't go the way you guys wanted. It was certainly a surprising when you were there with Tim Elliott.
Yeah, man. It's a dangerous sport, and these things happen. You're gonna get caught. I mean, we knew he was dangerous. I'd take that fight again in a heartbeat, and I know Tim would too. I feel very confident that we have the skills to win that fight. But he got caught early, and those things happen in this sport. And
I think that first strike, it was on the cage side in front of me when they first engaged. It looked like Tim kind of ducked to the right going for a takedown. And I don't know if a lot of people saw it, but it just happened to be right in front of me. It looked like he got clipped with that very first shot.
It actually it was a kick coming up, but he actually leaned into the knee part of it with his temple. And he didn't look quite right after that. I agree. I actually kind of wondered if he got hit clean, because when he came up from that, I was like, if that landed clean, he should go down.
Right.
He is a tough dude. But when we got back after he got finished with the choke, he walked over to me and he goes, "What did I get finished with?"
Oh, Jesus.
So he wasn't even truly coherent after that landed. So, and it is what it is. You go out there and you get caught with something, and again, against a very tough opponent.
Bid wins tough, man. That's a good dude.
For sure. And I feel like if we'd have got in a little bit deeper and got some wrestling going, I think that fight would have been completely different. But it wasn't. There it is.
First time for Tim to fight outside the United States. Long plane ride. I think you guys had basically less than like 48 hours on the ground to make weight. I know he said afterwards it had nothing to do with it. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't feel like it was anything about preparation, man. I think we had a great camp. Even though it was a short camp, we got him in great shape. We were well prepared. I was already training Joseph Benavidez for the fight, so I was already well versed in what needed to happen, and I understand Tim well. I feel like fight week was great. The weight cut went well. The rehydration went great. There's no excuses.
Shit happens in this game.
Yeah,
Right?
he got caught by Ben. Ben did a great job and came out and Tim style lends to that it's a crazy movement, but it's not hands up, and every once in a while you're going to run into something, and this was the one where he ran into it.
Did you fly home with Tim too?
No, he stayed at extra. He was staying for a week and then changed that up and came home a couple days later. So no, we didn't get on the plane ride, but we've been talking since he's been home, and he's in good spirits and ready to get back to it.
I was going to ask just what's that ride like? Maybe you weren't with him, but at least you had to do it solo. What's that plane ride back? Because that's a long flight to not get the result you want.
It's a thing a lot of people don't understand. Like the trip is predicated on winning and losing.
Right.
I mean, everything about that trip, we had a great time. We had great food. It was a beautiful place. The people were friendly. The arena was awesome. We felt very welcomed. And with a loss, that all turns to crap. So it's I've been to places where we didn't have, where, the food wasn't great. When we went to Brazil, it was a much tougher deal. The weather wasn't great. I was sick for the first 3. I literally didn't leave the hotel for 2 days when I got to Brazil for Kevin Lee's last fight. But after he won,
it's all good.
Loved it. Loved every second. Yeah, it's so much of what we do on these trips is predicated on that win or loss, and it's it's not like a bad day at the office. It's not like a missed sale. It's not. I mean, it's devastating on multiple levels, financially, for the fighter, for the whole team. What does it mean where you're going to go? There. I mean, you put your ass on the line. There's physical pieces to it. So there's a bunch of things that play into it. It's a big thing to deal with that loss well, and a guy like Tim is doing that. I mean, everybody takes it hard at first, then you got to put it in perspective and get back after it and realize it is just competition, and you're going to have some losses when you're putting it on the line, and get back to work and start heading back up.
And I guess even though you're not the one that's physically in there and having to deal with the physical damage, I mean, you probably feel it just as deep.
Well, yeah, not physically, but emotionally. I don't work with anybody I'm not emotionally involved with. If I don't care about them as a person, if we don't get along, if there isn't a connection there, then I won't work with them. So it's a sickening feel when you see your fighter take a loss like that, especially when they're capable of more and they just got clipped like that.
Well, you're here with Kevin Lee, who's facing Michael Chiesa in the main
Yes.
event. And I guess that kind of leads into what I want to talk about, because it's Xtreme Couture. I've been in Vegas for about a decade. When I came out there, man, it was top of the food chain, right? That's where everybody was going. And then it seems, some things happened, and it kind of broke apart a little bit. For a while, it didn't seem like there were many people there. And now it seems to me like Xtreme Couture is back, man. The gym is rolling. And for you to say that you feel a personal connection with everybody that's on the team, so you guys aren't just trying to get people, you're trying to get people that you're actually connected with. So talk to me, I guess, about, man, this upward swing that it seems like Xtreme Couture is on right now.
Yeah, well, when they asked me to come in, the team was struggling, and I think there was a little bit of do we really want a team again after, we put all this into it, and then as soon as things got rough, guys left.
Right.
And it's like, you got to understand, fighters have a short career, and they got to do what they think is best. And I'm all about loyalty, but I'm also about loyalty as a two-way street. And I feel like there was some things that fell off. There was some changes that the fighters didn't feel good about. There was a little bit of switch in Vegas with guys turning and going to another gym. And, I understand those things. So when they asked me to come on, I kind of looked at it and said, well, if we're going to do this, we need to bring back a culture and a vibe that I think Vegas hasn't really had.
Mm-hmm.
Where Vegas, I think prior to that, even in Xtreme's heyday, it was every man for himself. And if you were a new guy coming in, it was, can you make it?
It was a great place to spar, right? It was a great place
to fight before you fought.
Right.
is the way I look at it, from the stories I hear. And what I really wanted to kind of get across was a new shift in, hey, even though team is a loose thing in this. We're not a real team. We don't belong to the same thing. We don't all fight for the same organization. We don't all have the same goals. But if we can build that feeling, I mean, the top teams in the world all have that vibe of we're part of something that's bigger. And while I say it's an individual sport, but you can only go as far as your team can take you, because you have to have people pulling you and you have to have people pushing you. And without a strong team and the numbers and the bodies to get the looks, it can be very challenging to do that.
And I guess maybe for people that don't know, you came from Team Quest for a long time. You
Yeah.
were there, so that was one of the strongest teams. And you talk about the heyday of Team Quest, man. That was one of the strongest teams. So how did you get involved there to begin with? And is that kind of the feeling that you were trying to duplicate in Vegas?
Yeah, so I'll a two-part question, right?
Yeah.
So on the feeling part, I wanted to replicate the feeling, but not the intensity. I mean, when we started there, it was a rough and tumble. We sparred hard 4 or 5 days a week. I mean, it was an intensity that served us well at that point in MMA and where MMA was, but it'll shorten most guys' careers.
Yeah.
So I wanted to change up a little bit of the actual structure of what we did physically, but get that team vibe again for sure. I ended up at Team Quest, just one of those crazy things. I mean, MMA didn't even really exist when I started in it. I had a chance to go spar with Randy when he was getting ready to fight Maurice Smith.
Crazy.
And basically the call was, hey, there's this guy named Randy Couture. He's a wrestler. He's fighting for the UFC heavyweight title against Maurice Smith. He's looking for sparring partners. Do you guys got anybody that wants to go? So my coach came and said, hey, do you want to go spar? And I'm like, I'll go punch this guy. I got belly to back on the top of my head and damn near broke my neck.
Oh, Jesus.
On day one.
This could have been a whole different story.
And he says to me, don't look back on those throws. And I looked at him and I said, could have used that a minute ago. And as soon as my neck was better, I showed back up and just kept showing up and training with him. And then I started sharing what I knew about jiu-jitsu. And we started really kind of taking the sport and learning from each fight and melding what now is considered MMA. But we were looking to do that early on, how to get back up off bottom, and we were taking lessons from those fights. So him and Dan Henderson had run Performance Quest. Dan had decided to go back to California. Matt Lindland had come in the picture, and they had opened up Team Quest in the back of the parking lot there that Matt owned with a couple other guys. And they asked me to come on and work for them. And I was looking to open my own gym, and I said, I'm not interested in a job. But we ended up talking several more times, and they said, we really want you. And I said, well, I'll come on as a partner. And
Drive a hard bargain.
Yeah, well, it worked out good for everybody. I mean, they didn't have to put. I was like, well, you want to pay me what I'm worth up front? You got 5 students. You're going to come out of pocket. But I said, I'll come on and take a small salary of the first cut, and then from there we'll split it, and you guys will make money for doing nothing, because they had it open for several years and had 5 students. I mean, they were busy fighting and doing
Right.
other things, and they weren't running it like a business. And I said, well, I'll come in and run the business. I'd had sales experience. I'd already helped run somebody else's gym.
Because fighters don't pay the bills, right?
Well, they do and they don't, but you need regular students for sure.
Right.
I mean, they're not going to. It's going to be hard without a crazy investor that's willing to kind of throw money away. But if you want the business model to work well, you have to have a good balance, but you can bring in enough fighters to definitely supplement income as well.
So we're here for a Sunday night fight, but I got to ask you, with the old Team Quest background, on Saturday night, are you going to be trying to find a TV to see Chael Sonnen and Wanderlei Silva?
Oh yeah, well, and Ryan Couture.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've worked with Ryan now for several years while I was there, and this is one of the first fights I can't be with him because they were just so close together, and this was a huge fight. But yeah, we're going to be watching those two for sure. I mean, I can't wait to see that.
How's Ryan doing? He had some difficult losses, and man, such a hard way for him to come up underneath that family name. So, but it was a cool story. He never really wanted the fame. He worked hard around the gym.
Yeah, that he is a guy who has, and having the name Couture has helped. It has never hurt him.
Right.
But I've never seen him lean on that. He shows up and works hard. He doesn't expect any special treatment in team. He is a very hard-working guy. He's very humble, and he wanted to do it and do it on his own, and he really has. I mean, he's pushed hard. He's had some tough losses, shows back up, trains again, gets ready, fights. I mean, The last fight especially, I thought we had that one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just made one silly mistake and got caught. And I mean, everything was going just the way we wanted on that one. But yeah, he's a great guy and just been a joy to work with. I mean, he's one of those guys that's more than just an athlete I work with. He's a friend. That's somebody we go out and hang out and have a good time, and just a quality guy for sure.
Such a good dude. I mean, sometimes I feel like we repeat that so often because there are so many great people involved in MMA. I mean, there really are good people, but he's always just been a good dude. It's been fun to watch him come up from the amateur ranks, even fighting in Tough Enough in Vegas, and again, knowing. Like you said, the Couture name helps, but it hurts too. There's some expectations.
I was going to say, I think for every bit that the Couture name has helped him, I think that expectation, how people look at him, the people that are like, oh, you're only here because you're dad, and not realizing he's earned it. I think for every bit it's helped. It's been, it's that double-edged sword. There was a story of a philosophy teacher that at the beginning of every term would say, anybody that can cut a magnet so thin that it doesn't have a positive and a negative side gets an automatic A. And you can't.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. They all and the whole point of that, right, is no matter what the good side is, there's a negative side to it, and you got to manage and balance those things out.
Look at you bringing the wisdom in.
Oh yeah, Follisism. There you go.
All right, Kevin Lee, give us an idea what this guy's like. Knowing that you said you're connected to all your guys. I like the guy. I think he's super entertaining. I think he's very, very charismatic, very genuine. But, boy, he has pissed off some people, man, both from down in Brazil, flipping people off, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the press conference, got kind of crazy. I mean, this was already a good fight anyway. I think the press conference thing happening just got people more excited, like the casual fan that maybe didn't know how good this fight was. Now they care about it. But, I mean, so with all that said, I know he gets a lot of love, but he gets some hate, too.
What business are we in?
We're in the fight business.
No, we're in the fight-tainment business.
That's true. That's true.
Right? You take a guy as talented as John Fitch, and then, but not always entertaining, not great at speaking, not willing to get up, and that's a guy who let his fists do the talking, and you don't go as far. And you could say, well, that's a shame, and it shouldn't be that way. And I'm like, well, there's what should be, and there's what is, and we're dealing with what is. And if you're not stirring the pot, if you're not getting people to like you, to not like you, but if at some point they got to be talking about you one way or the other, you're leaving part of your job on the table.
That's a good point.
And I think Kevin does a great job of that. If you get around Kevin in person, what a delightful young man.
Yeah.
Very well mannered. But he knows how to entertain. He knows how to talk, and he knows how to start building up some buzz around what he's doing, and without that, your value's just not there, and people don't want to see you. If they don't want to see you, it doesn't matter how talented you are.
I get it, man, and I like it a lot. I wonder though, do you ever? It's not necessarily your job, I guess. Do you ever pull him aside and be like, "Bro, maybe that was a little too much"?
I don't think he's ever gone too far. I mean, I think the worst thing he said was, "Your mom got tickets to the show."
I don't even think he meant to talk trash.
He wasn't. All he was saying was, "Your mom's going to be there." It was on him, but it's like people wanted to jump on that. Well, there's something, but really the stuff he's saying, like, I'm going to carry you in this fight. I'm going to do this. Like, man, if people don't get that that's part of the show,
right,
then they don't get it. It's like taking WWE completely serious, or you look at a guy like Chael Sonnen. If you're ever around Chael in person, what a nice, humble guy.
The nicest guy ever.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that if you watch his fights prior to his title fight, when did you hear him ever say anything?
Nothing. Never.
Nothing. Super quiet guy. And exactly. But he finally gets a shot at a title, and this is at a time when Anderson Silva is as a low. He's kind of skated through some fights, not took a risk. And Dana White comes out and says, "This might be the first title fight I put on the prelim." And Chael goes, "Not on my first title fight." and he lets loose. And he got rewarded great for it.
Became a gift, man.
Yes.
He was part of the movement, I think, that really paved the way for guys like Conor McGregor. Conor's, I mean, how can you not respect what Conor is doing to now, 4 years ago to be on welfare and now about to cash a $100 million check? Man.
Where's Conor gone too far? Was taking another man's belt and running around with it? Is it too far? For me, as long as it's in good fun, and if the other guy wants to take it serious and get butthurt about it, that's on them.
Because I mean, even throwing a punch at a press conference, it's not like there weren't three people in between them, right?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't think he threw the first punch.
Right.
He didn't run at Chiesa.
That's true.
Chiesa ran at him. I mean, there's a difference between
professional
that.
Fighter comes running at you.
You run at another professional fighter, and you got to think that something's going to happen.
Fair point.
And Chiesa even said, "You better get someone in between us." and then ran at him. And it's like, well, I mean, I'm not putting that off on Kevin. If Kevin got up and chased him, I might say something about that.
I thought the flipping off the crowd in Brazil was awesome too, man.
Yeah, and here's the way I look at that stuff. That's not my style.
Right.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't ask him to do it. But it's not my place to run those things, and that's his career, and it's his place to build that, and he's going to live and die by some of those consequences, and some of those things have turned out very well. And it's like like in Brazil, I was a little worried walking around. I was like, hey, we probably don't want to be out too late. But at the end of the day,
I'll be a few steps behind you. Go ahead, bro.
At the end of the day, I think most people get it.
Yeah.
Most people get it. And, we had people that were saying hi to us, wanted our autograph afterwards. People cheered for us afterwards. And I mean, that's just part of the show. It's part of what needs to be done, in my opinion, now to really be a standout. If you don't have a little bit of a character or a gimmick,
yeah, why are people tuning in?
You know what I mean? It's unfortunate because it's just like being on Tough. People are like, oh, what do you think about all the craziness on season 25 where you were on there? And I'm like, I think it was awesome for ratings, and I hated it while I was there.
Positive and negative, right?
Yes.
Positive and
it's
negative.
Like, not my thing, made me crazy, but I'm watching. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great ratings.
All right, well, Michael Chiesa, a tough test, man. This is
very
tough.
Going
to be, like I said, even before the theatrics happened, I think people that are hardcore fight fans were already looking at this fight saying, I cannot wait for this fight. So your preparation for this fight, I mean, what do you see in Chiesa? This is a stiff test.
Well, Chiesa's not number 7 in the world by accident. You don't get to that level without being a great fighter, and so we've taken this fight very seriously. I mean, we've taken every fight serious, but I think Kevin has come in and been the even more dedicated and focused. I mean, the intensity that he's brought to this camp has really matched the level of the fight we've been given. Mm-hmm. And you can't take Chiesa lightly. And he's got an awkward style, but that doesn't mean it's not good.
Right.
It's in some ways it's harder because it's not what you're used to seeing. And he uses his reach well in the striking in kind of an awkward way, but he's landing stuff. But when he gets his hands on you, he's very dangerous. His clinch work, his ground work, I mean, that's what's got him to number 7 in the world. So we've paid a lot of attention, obviously, to that and how we go to the ground, or if we go to the ground, how we play the stand-up has been very dedicated to try and keep Chiesa from doing what he does well, which, I don't think that's a secret. Every fight, we don't want to be with Chiesa on our back. We just gave away the game plan.
Right.
But it's, you have to take him very serious. And I think he's one of those guys that you could watch film on and go, man, that's not that great. And that's be easy to stop. But he keeps doing it. So it is great. It's like,
absolutely.
The fact that he's in a grind and gets there and you watch it, it's, I think it makes it even more impressive that you can see it happening and he keeps doing the same thing repeatedly. That being said, I think we've got all that skill set, and I think our striking is far more dangerous. I think we have the ability to win this fight in multiple spots, and I think Chiesa's got one way to really win this, with rare exception.
There's some big fights ahead if you can pick up the victory here, man. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff on the horizon, especially with the champ in the division out chasing a boxing match right now. You got a lot of people at the top of the division that need something to do.
For sure.
And he's been talking about maybe a 165-pound division, hoping that happens.
Yeah, I don't know what the scoop is with that. I would like to see them add some more divisions, and that would be a great place to start, obviously, for Kevin. I mean, the cut we have is tough. I mean, and I think for guys like Chiesa it is too. I think there's a whole lot of guys at that 55 that would bump to that it would make a lot more sense, where 70's a little too big, but 55 is a push. But I've worked with a lot of athletes. I've had guys in the UFC now. This is my 17th year in a row that I've had guys in the UFC.
Crazy.
And Kevin is one of the most talented athletes I've ever worked with. He has just a ton of potential. And literally every fight camp, I look at him and I go, we're substantially better than we were the last one.
That's awesome.
And his growth is just meteoric. I mean, working with Dewey Cooper, Black Cobra Striking Systems, working with me, the strength and conditioning stuff we're doing. I mean, it just keeps melding, and we've got 4 years under our belt, and it just finally feels like it's really, really clicking. So I expect good things. I mean, we're not looking past this fight by any stretch of the imagination, but our eyes are on a title. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to win a belt, and I think Kevin Lee, by the end of his career, will do that.
I love this fight, man. I really do. Because Michael Chiesa, super talented and just a good dude.
And a
as
great
well,
guy.
man.
I
Yeah,
love Michael
great
Chiesa. I know
dude.
his camp. I know his coach. Those are guys that
Yeah,
come
he
down
love
to the
coming
gym
down.
and been with us. And after this fight, be welcome anytime. He like I said, he's a great guy. For me, there's no animosity in that at all. I always kind of look at it like the beginning of your older viewers might get. I don't know if the younger ones will get this, but the Wile E. Coyote and the sheepdog,
Right?
and they'd walk up in the morning and clock in.
Yeah.
Morning, Ralph. Morning, Sam. And then they'd go to war, and at the end they'd check out and go home. And
That's awesome.
And I really feel like MMA is the same way. When it gets to be fight time, there's going to be that battle. There's going to be, there's going to be talking smack. There's going to be all those things in place. And when it's over, and that's that. And
That's part of the sport,
and
right?
we'll move
Hug
on.
it out and move on.
Yep, and I love that part of it, and I got no problem with the intensity during it. And I mean, I think you need that a little bit. You need some, not just controversy, but some of the, like, it's hard to get in and want to hurt someone that you haven't built up a little animosity towards.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? And what these guys are expected to do for a sport, it's an intense thing.
Yeah, no doubt. Who else from your gym should we be keeping an eye on? You got anybody that's going to be making the move up anytime soon? Or
Well,
doing
we've
something
got
special?
we've got a lot of young talent and some really good guys moving up. We've got more than a few guys heading into the new contenders.
Contender series,
Which I'm really excited about. You know, one of the things that Vegas has lacked, other than the UFC and World Series occasionally, the pro shows have really got kind of pushed out. You had to go to
That's
Utah
true.
or California because of the UFC. Like, they didn't really
you didn't have that intermediate step. You could come up under Tough Enough, which is a great amateur organization.
unbelievable.
Yeah, and then you make your pro debut, and where do you go?
And to Utah, to California. And it's hard when you're young. It's like, well, I got to bring cornermen out and do all this. And there was, you know what I mean? Like, and that's fine some of the time. We don't mind traveling. But it's nice when you got some hometown stuff. So I feel like the contenders reaches into not necessarily that beginner pro, but at least a little step below World Series, right? Where it's World Series to me brings in a much higher level for the most part if you want to build. So having those fights and having them weekly, I think is awesome for us. We got
They just announced the first 5 fights today. So Boston Sam is one of your guys,
that.
right?
Okay, so that's yes.
Yeah, this just became official just before we sat down. I followed Boston's career from the time he was fighting at Tough Enough as well. That kid's got pop in his hands.
He's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's an amazing athlete. We've really been working to round out his game. We had a loss in Colorado. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
It was the worst decision I've ever seen. I mean, if you like, Chevello lost his mind. I mean, he dropped the guy 3 times, never got hurt, didn't get anything, kind of skated the 3rd round.
Good
And
Lord.
I mean, he hurt that guy so bad repeatedly. It truly was one of those ones, and it was like ready to go to the UFC, and then so that kind of got put on, and then right after that he had an opportunity to move up to a big show again, and then broke his hand, and so he's had a little bit of a tough go, but I expect to see very big things out of him. I mean, he should be fighting in the UFC soon, and I think this is a great step up for him. I think he gets in and showcases what he's capable of, and
I'm anxious to see.
Some
to
good
just
things.
see the whole series, man. Just they don't have all the details that they've released yet. I'm sure they've got it figured out, but we do know that the fights are going to be at the Tough Gym. I've gotten a chance to go there a couple times. Obviously, you've been there.
Yeah.
To see fights, it is weird, man. Like, just so small. You can hear
well,
every sound.
it's not going to the Tough Gym, right? It's going to the new.
Oh, is it going to the new performance?
It's going
center?
to the Performance Center, I believe. Now, I'm not 100% on that.
Oh, that might have changed the whole
Maybe I'm
game.
talking
then.
out. But that's what I thought. I thought
In the octagon that they have
well,
there?
I think part of the reason, and I could be wrong. Maybe they're still doing that.
Right.
I don't really know, but for some reason I thought it was there. But you could be right too. It could be at the.
Either
way,
it's
going to be a
neat.
small,
Yeah.
very very intimate and intense. There's a different vibe when the's 25 people watching.
It's totally different.
And it's enclosed, so even though there's only 25, it's loud. There's a lot of pressure with it. It's almost different kind of pressure that's weird. Being there on the season with 24 and 25, and then cornering those fights, it's a different vibe there for sure.
It feels weird to me too, just being an observer. Like, when you're in a crowd of thousands watching, like, no big deal, right? But like when you're only one of like 20 people watching, it's almost like eerie feeling, like I'm not supposed to be here. Or something.
Yeah, it is. It's like a Sunday night fight to me almost. It's like, wait, it's not Saturday. What day is it? Like those change-ups throw things off. Like where you step out in front of 20,000 people, you're like, oh, we're home.
Yep.
Like this is what it's supposed to be.
Crazy.
Yeah, so it is very different. But Boston Salmon is one of those guys. I'm telling you, he is a guy to watch for. He is going to make a mark in this sport.
Cool.
For sure.
I agree, man. I saw him right away. Like, this guy's got something. Last thing I got for you, we talked a little bit, kind of touched real quickly on Conor McGregor. Since everybody is talking about now it's official, are you looking forward to it at all? I see both sides of it. Some people saying this is so stupid, it's ridiculous, I don't care, and other people saying this is the greatest thing ever, I can't wait. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
Well, on the spectrum, I think it's a spectacle fight, and I think that's what makes it fun. I think it's ridiculous, the hype and the amount of hype that goes in behind him to where people are starting to be like, yeah, I actually think he can win.
It's crazy.
I'm not in that school.
Right.
I think he could win.
Anything in a fight, right?
I think I could beat Tiger Woods and hit a hole-in-one too.
Right. On one hole.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible, but it ain't likely for me to win that. And time after time, and so I just think good for him. I think that's part of that. What I said, it's fight-tainment, and I don't think there's a better entertainer in the sport than Conor McGregor, and that's why he gets paid so well. People want to watch him. You hate him, you love him. He's got a whole country behind him, and I mean, I think it's awesome that they've been able to put this together. So I'm actually excited to watch this, but not from I don't think it's going to be close. I just want to see it play out, and I want to watch. I think what happens in the stands and afterwards is going to be every bit as interesting. Man. I mean, when you get those two crowds together, you get Mayweather's crowd and you get the Irish crowd and the drinking.
Passionate, man. And
they're both passionate, and I think there's going to be some crazy. I don't want to be at that show. I think it's going to be crazy.
It's so funny. I think you nailed exactly what I feel about it. I honestly, you can't say for a fact because anything can happen in a fight, right? I mean,
yeah, we've
Floyd
seen
could
craziness.
slip on a banana peel. Who knows?
We've seen
right?
craziness.
But 99 times out of 100, Floyd wins that fight.
But the amount of money coming in that's evened up the odds.
It's crazy.
I look at it, I'm like, holy Moses,
it's
really
crazy. But
yeah.
I can't wait for it because it's something we've never seen.
It'll
before.
be fun.
It's crazy.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't look at this as a we'll see who the best boxer is.
Right.
I look at this and I'm like, this is an entertainment fight for sure. And the hype, the weigh-ins, the press conferences, all of that is going to be part of this spectacle that's going to be amazing to watch and see. And quite frankly, really watching people become so passionate or passionately dispassionate.
Yeah, right?
Like, even the people that say they don't care, like, really don't care.
Yeah, why do you gotta be so caring about not caring?
Right, and I find that interesting. It's like, and I'm in the same boat. Like, I feel like at first I was like, this is ridiculous, and then I was like, well, wait, why do I keep talking about it so much if it's so ridiculous? I'm like, it's
wait, now I do care.
It's got some bite to it, and it's an interesting story, and there is that. Can he? What is he? Is it possible? Is the hype real? And you know what I mean? And it's like, well, let's just see now. Let's put it out there, and either way, good for him.
No doubt.
He's made millions, and that's a good. You can't feed your kids on it. It's a good start, but $100 million you might be able to do something with.
Yes, you can.
So good for him on putting together a payday. I think it's wonderful. I think it'll bring fans to MMA that weren't watching.
I agree.
I think there's a lot of people that are going to get done with boxing, and depending on what's going on, be like, what is going on over there? And and I'm all for that too. It goes back kind of like when they brought in who was the wrestler they just brought in?
Not Brock. CM Punk.
Yeah, CM Punk. When people were all upset, he bypassed these guys and how unfair that is. And I said, look, he brought over several million fans that never watched MMA, and some of those are going to stick.
It's true.
And
look
what Pride did. People used to say that about Pride. I'm like, look how many fighters are making big money because there's these Japanese wrestlers that are on there fighting.
Yep.
And it drives up the money for everybody. So my take on these kind of spectacle things, while maybe it's not the purist in me that loves it, is it's good for business, and it's good for all of us then.
I agree. All right, last thing. What are we going to see on Sunday night? Is your man getting this done quick? Are we settling in for a 5-round war? What are we going to see?
We're prepared for a long war.
Yep.
We're prepared for a long war, and we're just going to have to see how it plays out. One of the things, obviously we'd love to go out and knock him out. You always want that, but Chiesa is extremely durable and very tough and very crafty. So I expect a finish in this is what I expect, but I don't expect it early. I'd be very surprised if we put him away early. I expect there to be some time to feel this out, move things forward, and then we're looking to finish that on our feet if we can.
I love it, man. All right, brother. We got to do this more often.
For sure.
Thanks for doing it, brother.
Absolutely.
Robert Follis bringing it hard. bringing the knowledge. Let me say welcome back to the MMA Roadshow. Hopefully you like that. That's a guy that probably doesn't get enough love. An underrated mind in the game, underrated coach in the game, and somebody that I'm going to try to feature a little bit more frequently, man. I always enjoy talking to the guy. I think he really is, one of the good guys in the sport. One of my favorite coaches. John Crouch, certainly one of those guys as well. There's a handful of dudes that I just really, really respect, and Robert Follis is certainly on that list. So hopefully we can feature him a little bit more frequently. I love getting we're so focused on getting the fighter interviews, you know what I mean? We got to get them, right? The site needs them, and it's the athletes you want to talk to, right? And so we're always so busy doing that, but it's the fighters that get the clicks, right? And at the end of the day, hey, we are in the website business. We are trying to get clicks. That's how we get paid, right? But man, I just always enjoy the conversations behind the scenes with some of these coaches and trainers, and getting things from their point of view and how they see things as well. So something I honestly need to do more of in my coverage. And if it doesn't get clicks, to hell with it. I like it. That's what matters. So please let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the content, let me know so I know I'm heading down the right direction. Or tell me I'm an idiot, and I'll probably still do it anyway. Okay, so let's talk about this card a little bit. UFC Fight Night 112, Oklahoma City. I lived in Oklahoma City for 1 year, by the way. I don't know if anybody is Oklahoma City, man. I back when I was still in the restaurant business, working for Abuelos, I came and lived here for a year. Whenever the Riverwalk opened, if you've never been in Oklahoma City, they opened up a Riverwalk. Gosh, what, 15 years ago? Dude, I'm getting old. 15, 18 years ago, and instantly brought some business and commercial stuff, traffic down to the downtown area, and I actually came to help out at the Abuelos down there in Bricktown for a while. So lived in Oklahoma City for a year. Always felt like a little bit of a traitor being from Dallas. Now that I've lived in Vegas for 10 years, it doesn't really matter anymore. But yeah, I always felt like a little bit of a traitor when I was a Texan living in Oklahoma for a while. Yeah, so this card will be at the Chesapeake Energy Arena. That's the big arena. I'm sure it'll be scaled down a little bit. I can't imagine that ticket sales are crushing it. I just got in today, so I haven't had a lot of time to research it yet. But it's just got to be a tough sell, man. The Sunday night card. I love the fight, but I don't know if everybody else does. I think this is one of those cards that's more like made for TV, and it doesn't have the natural tie. So I don't know. I'll be anxious to hear how ticket sales do. We'll find out more as the week goes on, but I gotta think this is going to be a tough one. So we'll see what kind of crowd we get on Sunday night. Hopefully it's a good one. We've talked extensively about Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Lee, Tim Boetsch versus Johnny Hendricks. They'll actually be at the open workouts tomorrow, so we'll have full coverage of that. Talk to both of those guys. Interesting matchup there. Johnny Hendricks. We talk about size. You talk about Rafael dos Anjos moving up weight. Johnny Hendricks, a guy that moved up weight as well, and he's going to be facing a big, strong dude in Tim Boetsch. You feel like Johnny Hendricks is probably the more skilled fighter overall, but man, Tim Boetsch is a bruiser. So interested in that matchup. Felice Herrig fighting better than she ever has in her career. On a nice little roll. Was a little disappointed in getting booked with Justine Kish, but is definitely taking her seriously, and this would be a big win for her. Meanwhile, Kish has a great story about the fact that she watched Herrick fight 10 years ago and was like, I can do that. It was kind of funny because it sounded like kind of complimentary but kind of condescending as well. Like, she said she's a fan of Felice, but then also she looked at it and was like, well, I can do that. So to me, that's almost a little bit of a put down. Felice, by the way, also said when she was on American Ninja Warrior, that was actually out here in Oklahoma City. It was where it was filmed. So, yeah, fun little matchup there. Joaquin Christensen versus Dominic Reyes. Of course, Dominic Reyes, the viral superstar. Alex Garcia versus Tim Means. That could be a lot of fun. Garcia can be a dangerous dude, and Tim Means always comes out for business, that's for sure. And then, with little fanfare, one BJ Penn versus Dennis Siver. BJ Penn, after that disappointing outing he had in January, heartbreaking result there. Guy was feeling it, man. We had a nice sit-down interview with him, and he was feeling it all week long. The open workouts, just commanding the crowd, and you know, telling everybody to empty out their bank accounts and put the money on him. Hopefully they didn't, because it didn't go very well for him. And you had to wonder at that time, is that the last we're going to see of BJ Penn? And listen, he admits he thought about it for a little bit, but ultimately coming back against Dennis Seaver. So didn't have a lot of time to do extra interviews this week because of everything that's going on, but was not going to come to town and not speak to BJ Penn. So he was one of the surprise guest of the afternoon of our interviews, and here's how that went.
I know how fired up you were last time, man, how just ready you were to be back in the cage. Didn't get the result you wanted. Talk about just the emotions afterwards of, being that fired up and just coming up short.
Yeah, my last fight, I was pumped up to get back into the UFC. Things didn't go my way, I'm sure everyone knows, and yeah, here we are, and I'm glad we're fighting again. I'm really excited.
Talk about the decision-making process afterwards, because I'm sure some people were like, well, he came back and he didn't get the win, so maybe that'll be the last time we see him. Did you consider that at all, or were you immediately like, we're doing this again?
Well, right after the fight, I was kind of like, maybe this is the end. I'm talking 5 minutes, 10 minutes after the fight, But actually, one of my buddies walked up to me, Leroy Padilla, and he said, BJ, you got to fight again. I was like, what are you talking about, man? But over time, from that moment, over time, 1 or 2 days, and I was like, you know what? Let's do it again. And everybody, I got a lot of flack from different people, like, especially even when we were going to do the fight, because that's who was being offered. They're like, why are you fighting such a good young guy, or this and that, your first fight back? But history, that's ancient history already.
Nice. You get this matchup now with Dennis Seaver. This is a fight that you had been linked to before. What did you think when they came with this name? Was this a fight that you wanted, that you asked for, or did it just happen to come back together?
You know what? We ended up talking to him, and I think Sean was just kind of the opinion that, it might be the end or whatever. So we're just talking, and we're like, we wanna finish out the fight we were supposed to have. And I said, when Joe Silva was here, because I think that was the whole transition period, I was being offered Dennis Seaver. Joe Silva leaves, and now here I'm fighting this guy, But that's part of the game, and I'm not one to really turn down fights, So that's how we ended up in the ring together. But so I was talking to them and back and forth, and in reality, I don't know if it was 4 or 5 years, but I've only fought one fight in the last 4 or 5 years before Yair, and that was one with Edgar that didn't go too well. So, just kind of thinking about it and thinking properly, and we're like, let's kind of put together some fights. And I'm like, well, you guys offered me Seaver first, and they're like, let's try to put that fight back together for you.
Very nice. What can you do? At this point in your career, you're a Hall of Famer. You're a former champion. You've done it all, seen it all. So, are there changes you can make, adjustments you can do, things you can do different as you prepare yourself for the fight?
Yeah, I think that you know what? Actually, I'm kind of with some old people. Maybe I kind of went full circle, I guess, because I'm back with Rudy Valentino with the striking and mixed martial arts, and then I brought in the Marinovich brothers again. So we are, I don't think we learned new stuff. I think maybe we kind of went back to grab stuff that we once forgot.
Nice. The build-up for this one's a little bit different, of course. Last time it was the spotlight. You were doing all the interviews. This time it's been almost quiet. Like, we haven't heard much from you. Do you welcome that? Is it almost kind of a relief to not have to do all that other stuff, or do you kind of miss the spotlight a little bit? What's the feeling?
No, you know what? Coming into this fight and thinking about Dennis Seaver and all that stuff, or just a next fight, it doesn't really matter the opponent, right? But I just kind of had it in my head, like, just keep our head down, stay humble, and get a win, and then we just keep rolling the ball from there.
What is it that you want to accomplish? You said here it was kind of like, let's go ahead and address the fight that was supposed to be already. Are you thinking long-term beyond this, or are you in that position in your career where it's kind of one fight at a time?
We always go one fight at a time, but yeah, we're going to take this as far as it can go. We're going to do good on Sunday, and then from there, we'll call Sean and see what's going on.
Does it have to be a win for you? Or can you look at things, let's say it doesn't go your way, but you're like, but I know I felt good, I know I was executing good,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, can you take victories out of it even if it doesn't end up going your way, or do you feel like you got to get a win?
No, I'm not even worried about that kind of stuff. I'm not here like, I gotta get a win. This is my last fight. I want to win coming out now. Or people are like, what are you doing this for the money or this and that? And people, I don't know. I just same thing as last time. Doing it because I love it. I mean, everybody's looking for more money. Rockefeller's looking for more money. We all are. But it's fun, man. It's good stuff.
Is it just because there's nothing that keeps you happy outside of this, man? I mean, could you walk away and be satisfied, or you got to be here?
You know what? That's a tough one. I can be satisfied, but it's kind of like that Mount Everest. Why are you gonna climb it? Because it's there, and UFC's here, and it's good stuff. Yeah.
Assuming things go your way, I mean, if you're writing your own future, how long do you keep doing this?
As long as it takes. As long as it takes to get it out of me, but I'm not rushing to get it out of me. I enjoy it.
Very nice. Well, when you play this thing out in your head, I mean, how do you see this fight going down? When you match up your skills, this is a guy you've thought about before. How do you see this fight going down?
I think, like I said, I keep my head down, being humble and everything. But I think I'll put him away. I don't know, first or second round, if you want to ask me honestly.
BJ Penn keeping it real, keeping it low key. Big fight for him, man, and you gotta feel like the end is always just one result over the horizon of BJ Penn. But man, the guy is still a legend. He's still a connection to the olden days, to yesteryear, to that bygone era. I think this is a more reasonable fight, right, against Dennis Siver. I mean. Nothing's guaranteed in the sport. There's no doubt about it. But I feel like this is a more winnable fight for BJ Penn. I mean, the Yair Rodriguez fight, I just never understood that booking whatsoever. And I think this is a little bit more reasonable matchup. So we'll see how it goes. Clay Guida, Eric Koch, that should be a fun fight. Vitor Miranda versus Marvin Vettori. That should be a very fun fight stylistically as well. So some good matchups up and down there. Carla Esparza, Marina Moroz, a nice women's matchup there. Jared Gordon making his debut. Johnny Case versus Tony Martin. I mean, there's some fun fights on this card. I think this is another one of those sneaky little cards that might fly under the radar a little bit. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll be watching it from the back. What will not be my traditional cage side position, doing play-by-play. Instead, I'll be in the back doing interviews. Always tough, man. Much respect. Guys like Casey Leiden from MMA Fighting, Dave Mandel from Sherdog, our own Cole Coffey from MMA Junkie, of course. The crew that's always in the back cranking out these interviews, man. It is not an easy job because you're trying to balance watching the fight between doing these interviews, and you gotta not only shoot the interviews and do the questions, but you gotta do the little editing and get it uploaded, and you're trying to balance watching the fight while you do it, and it's not easy. So there are times, quite frankly, where they're doing interviews basically blind. They didn't get to see the fight because they were in another interview at the time. So it's much respect to those road warriors that do that in the back. So that'll be my job on Sunday night, and hopefully I don't suck at it too bad. It's always fun when you're in the role that you're not familiar with. So hey, we did get some Mayweather McGregor talk in there with Follis. I hopefully you guys are okay that we haven't beaten it with just beating the dead horse yet, so to speak. I just feel like there's plenty of time. I listen to a bunch of podcasts too, man. I just as much travel as I do, and just sometimes just as background noise. I listen to a ton of MMA podcasts, and I know everybody is spending like half an hour on it. I know it's a big deal, but I just can't spend that much time on it right now. So hopefully everybody's okay with that. I'm sure if you feel like you're missing your Mayweather McGregor talk, that you were probably able to pull it in somewhere else, because it seems like every damn podcast out there is spending significant time on it. I just rather spend more time on the fights at hand right now. We're gonna have 2 more months to talk about that, and like we said, man, it is what it is. I'm actually looking forward to it. I think maybe people, now that's a reality, people are starting to accept a little bit. Like, don't be outraged. Just see it for what it is. it's crazy that it's happening. It's kind of cool that it's happening, and yeah, we'll have plenty of time to talk about it. So, anyway, listen, I don't want to make you hear my voice over and over rolling solo all night long. So we'll wrap it up here. But my plan right now is to get the and a half back in action this week. We'll probably sneak a little Bellator talk in there as well. But we'll do it after the UFC card, so you'll have something to listen to first thing Monday morning if you're wanting to hear a little recap from on site in Oklahoma and probably get some Bellator thoughts as well. So that is my current plan, trying to get back to a more normal working routine now that insane world tour is done. Thanks for sticking around for all of it, man. Hope you enjoyed everything from around the world, and hopefully you enjoyed me rolling solo. Hopefully I don't have to do it too many more times this year. But we're not going to miss a week. That's not what we do. We bring it to you from the road. So, listen, more than anything, as I always say, thanks for listening.